The door opened. Everything was perfect. Her color, her table, her light. No one had ever asked, and yet not a single detail was wrong. Part 5, the first to see. 21 weeks later, Whitfield called at 2 p.m. exactly.
It's done. I want you to be the first to see it.
3:30 p.m., perfect for the western afternoon light. Whitfield opened the door, said nothing, just stepped aside. Sarah walked in, a book in her hands, wrapped in craft paper, tied with a simple bow.
The Architecture of Happiness. For the library, James.
It hit her before she could think. The kind of right that only exists in dreams, not the kind of beautiful you see in a model home. Each element insufficient alone, but together, they created something she had no word for except right. Right in the way that 6 years of brokering real estate for other people, she had never walked into a place and thought, this, until today. Then she slowed. In the middle of the living room, a deep moss-green sofa. She stopped for 10 seconds. That color, the exact color she had been looking at, scrolling through Pinterest alone in her duplex. That color, not the color Daniel would have chosen for Whitfield, the color she had chosen for herself. A round marble-topped coffee table. Exactly why she preferred round over square in a space facing the city. Brass pendant lights. Soft, warm daylight, not cold white, not too warm. Each detail, one by one. Not coincidence, not pure talent. It was her, translated into the language of space, placed inside someone else's home. Sarah thought of Alice stepping through the mirror and finding everything familiar, but not quite real. Pygmalion loved the statue he carved. Daniel carved her statue, then sold it to the highest bidder. Whitfield walked her through each room, no explanations. At the master bedroom door, he stopped, the only closed door in the penthouse. Waiting for her. She stood at the threshold. The other rooms, she recognized herself. This one, she recognized herself in the way he had seen her. She didn't go in. Whitfield turned away. She walked into the library, placed the book on the shelf, straight, at eye level. She stood for a moment. Her hand touched the wood, warm, smooth, grain swirling naturally, exactly as Oregon walnut should be. Then she knocked lightly. The sound came back and knocked against her chest, not as deep as solid walnut returns, but not quite like the Baltic birch veneer sheets she had held at the workshop either. She remembered Miguel saying,
"From the outside, indistinguishable from solid."
She leaned in slightly, looked at the edge of the shelf, a strip of walnut banding running along it like a decorative accent, precise, technically perfect. Solid walnut doesn't need banding. Banding is added when there is something to conceal, a Baltic birch core inside, which would be exposed without a strip of real wood covering the edge. Those who don't know see a deliberate detail. Those who do understand why it's there. She straightened up. On the reading table sat a thick finish and materials manual, something Daniel always left behind after each project for the owner's reference. She opened it, no particular reason. A yellow post-it on the edge of a page, the sofa page, moss green boucle, color code, supplier, care instructions, Daniel's handwriting. She recognized the slanted pencil marks immediately, the same ones he used for notes on the drawings at her duplex.
Tell S.
She looked at that note longer than she had looked at the library. She turned the page. In her mind, 4 pieces fell into place at once. The slightly hollow knock, the workshop visit, Daniel's plan to buy an apartment, and the walnut banding in front of her. Silver-plated, veneer, the same language, looks real, weight wrong. She closed the manual. Sarah looked at Whitfield. He was standing by the terrace door, hands in his pockets, looking out at the Hudson River. The western afternoon light filtered through the leaves, falling across him. He wasn't looking at her, wasn't asking what she thought, just standing there like a man who had been there before she arrived and would be there after she left. One last piece remained, waiting for her.
Lovely.
Her voice smooth as veneer.
Daniel is very talented.
Whitfield said slowly, without turning around.
Talent often makes a person believe he's the exception.
He still didn't move. Had he known from the beginning? Was the New Jersey workshop really about needing an independent opinion? Sarah withdrew her hand from the wood, looked down at her own hand. Part 6. The Night with No Lights. 11 p.m. No lights. Sarah sat on the living room floor, the city light through the window enough to see everything. On the kitchen shelf, the set of silver spoons Whitfield had sent sat in their box. She had never used them, just left them there, sterling silver, the right weight. She looked at the box for 5 seconds, then opened her laptop. First tab, the interior contract for Wonderland Residences, 23rd floor. Whitfield had given it to her when she asked. No questions. She highlighted and tallied each line item. Bookcase, floor to ceiling, east and south walls, American black walnut, solid, custom built-in, $209,000. Dining, living room, kitchen, 2 guest bedrooms, all solid walnut, $320,000. She scrolled down. MBR, master bedroom, king bed, nightstands, vanity, walk-in closet, wall shelving, all solid walnut, custom, $237,000. The library and the bedroom, 2 rooms, more than the 5 other areas combined. Total walnut millwork and furniture, $766,000. Not a single line said veneer. Second tab, Google. Solid walnut versus veneer price difference custom millwork New York City. Red. Closed the tab. Closed the laptop. Nearly $300,000 stolen for a dream. Another $300,000 paid for the light. She picked up her tablet and opened Pinterest. The someday board. 847 images saved since she was 23. She scrolled slowly, past a Tokyo kitchen, past a Stockholm bedroom, stopped at an image saved a few years back. A Copenhagen penthouse, moss green sofa, round marble-topped coffee table, brass pendant lights. She looked at that image, then at the photograph of the Whitfield penthouse on her phone, the angle of the sofa, the position of the lights, the distance from the sofa to the window, the way the light fell across the floor. Daniel had designed this place in the language of her dream. Every detail she had described in those hours sitting beside him, not for her, for Whitfield's money, but using what she had shared with him the way you share the most private part of yourself. Tonight, honor was thinner than she'd thought. One thing she knew for certain. Daniel knew Veneer the way he knew his own hands. He had known from the start. That silence when she said solid slab, veneer would be too flat. Not the silence of a man thinking, the silence of a man who couldn't tell the truth. In Greek mythology, no one ever asked Galatea what she felt when she woke and understood she had been carved to become what someone else wanted. She put down the tablet, called. 2 rings.
Sarah.
Daniel's voice, alert, the voice of a man who always stayed up late to draw.
This late.
The Whitfield penthouse, solid or veneer?
Silence. She counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Veneer. Premium grade. You can't tell the difference.
The contract states solid.
I know. But technically, high-grade veneer in Manhattan conditions is actually more stable.
Nearly $300,000 difference. Enough for the deposit on the Midtown unit you've been looking at, not counting the design fee. Care to keep explaining the technicalities?
Silence. Longer than before.
You introduced me to him. I thought that was your answer.
Silence. She said nothing.
Sarah, I designed that place for him, but every corner of it is you.
Pygmalion, at least carved for himself.
She hung up, deleted Daniel's number, threw the 2 Rotring pens he had forgotten on her dining table into the bin. She didn't know exactly what would happen to Daniel after tonight, only that in this city, reputation precedes the person, and his name had just touched 2 names that couldn't be touched. He might have to design under someone else's name, the way Baltic birch needs veneer on the outside to look like something it isn't. Sarah sat in the dark of her duplex. There was one thing she hadn't finished understanding. When had Whitfield known, and why hadn't he stopped it? There was only one answer she could think of, and didn't want to. The person who calls a silver-plated spoon by its right name will see the banding that conceals the Baltic birch core. The next morning, exactly 7 a.m.